What is it that makes you, well, you? It's one of the biggest, most fascinating questions in psychology. So today, we're going to dive into it by exploring 4 very different maps, each one offering a unique path to understanding who we are.
Is your personality a product of some hidden past that you can't even remember? Or is it all about your potential for the future? Maybe it's just a specific recipe of traits, or is it more like a constant dance you're doing with the world around you? For more than 100 years, psychologists have been creating these different maps to try and navigate that very question. So let's start our journey with the map that takes us deep, deep beneath the surface.
Okay, so our first map. This one suggests that the most important parts of our personality are actually hidden from us. They're operating in the shadows, deep inside our unconscious mind.
The psychoanalytic view uses this really powerful metaphor, an iceberg. You know how you only see that small tip floating above the water? Well, that's your conscious mind, everything you're aware of right this second. But the huge, massive part hidden underneath the waves, that's the unconscious. And this perspective argues that that's the real engine driving your personality.
And you can't talk about this without mentioning the man himself, Sigmund Freud. He was the pioneer of this psychoanalytic perspective. He believed our unconscious is where we store all our deepest desires, fears, and memories, especially stuff from when we were kids. And he thought these hidden forces could kinda leak out in weird ways, through our dreams or even just a little slip of the tongue.
So the really crucial idea here is that from this viewpoint, your personality is pretty much determined by things that happened in your past, conflicts and events you might not even be aware of. It's a powerful thought, but it's also a little deterministic, right? Which naturally brings us to a completely different map.
Our second map was basically a direct reaction against that whole deterministic idea. It's often called the third force in psychology, and it gives us a way more optimistic and empowering vision of what it means to be human.
And here is the huge difference. The humanistic perspective says we are not just driven by a hidden past. Instead, we're shaped by the choices we make, by our free will, and by this built-in desire we all have to grow and become the best version of ourselves.
So, forget the cold, hidden iceberg. The metaphor here is way more hopeful. It's a seed. The idea is that every single one of us has all the potential for growth and fulfillment already packed inside us. We just need the right conditions, some warmth, acceptance, encouragement, to really blossom.
Big thinkers like Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow were the champions of this view. They talked a lot about concepts like self-actualization. That's just the fancy term for our drive to reach our full potential. They really believe that people are inherently good and that we all have this amazing capacity for psychological growth.
Okay, so our first 2 maps were all about the why of personality. Is it our hidden past or our future potential? Our third map totally shifts gears and focuses on the what. It tries to break personality down into its basic, measurable ingredients.
I like to think of it like a recipe. The trait perspective suggests that every personality is just a unique combination of a few core ingredients, or traits. And these traits are seen as pretty stable characteristics that guide how we tend to think, feel, and act over time.
So the goal here is less about a deep philosophical explanation and more about practical description. The idea is that if we can identify these core dimensions, we can build a framework to understand and even compare all the different ways people can be.
So, what are these key ingredients? Well, after decades and decades of research, psychologists have pretty much landed on a model called the Big Five. And you can remember it with the super handy acronym OCEAN. Now, here's what's so incredible. These same 5 traits have been found to be remarkably universal. They show up in studies of people from more than 50 different cultures all around the world.
So here they are, the Big Five: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. You can see what it might look like if you score high or low on each one, but the really important thing to remember is that these aren't boxes you either fit in or you don't. Each one is a spectrum, and most of us fall somewhere in the middle.
All right, our final map adds one more absolutely vital layer to this whole thing. It argues that personality isn't just something that exists inside you. It's actually shaped by a constant, dynamic interaction between you and your environment.
And the metaphor for this one is a dance. And I think that's just a beautiful way to think about it. Your personality isn't some static thing that's set in stone. It's this continuous, interactive movement, a back and forth between your own thoughts, your actions, and the situations you find yourself in every day.
This is the social cognitive perspective, and the big name here is Albert Bandura. He really highlighted 2 key ideas. First, that we learn a huge amount just by watching other people. He called this observational learning. And second, the importance of what he called self-efficacy, which is really just your belief in your own ability to succeed at something.
This leads us to a concept with a kind of a fancy name, reciprocal determinism. But really, it's just a continuous feedback loop. Let me give you an example. Imagine a student who believes she's a good basketball player. That's a personal factor, her belief. That belief makes her practice more. That's her behavior. The coach sees her practicing, is impressed, and gives her more playing time. That's a change in the environment. And that praise and playing time, it just boosts her original belief, and the whole cycle starts over again, getting stronger each time.
So how exactly do we learn just by watching? Well, Bandura broke it down into 4 simple steps. First, you have to pay attention to the behavior. Can't learn it if you don't see it. Second, you have to retain it, remember what you saw. Third, you have to be able to physically reproduce the action. And finally, you have to have the motivation to actually do it, usually because you think you'll get some kind of reward out of it.
Okay, we have been on quite a journey through 4 very different maps: the hidden unconscious, our inner potential, our core traits, and our social dance. So, which one is the right one? Well, you've probably guessed the answer by now. No single map can show you the whole territory.
Each of these perspectives gives us a really crucial piece of the bigger personality puzzle. The psychoanalytic map, it reminds us that our past and our hidden thoughts have a powerful pull. The humanistic map, it highlights our incredible potential for growth. The trait map gives us a practical, stable structure. And the social cognitive map shows us that we are active players, constantly shaping and being shaped by our world.
And this really reflects how most psychologists think today. To get a truly complete understanding of this complex, amazing thing we call personality, you really have to integrate the wisdom and the insights from all these different points of view.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. We've looked at the iceberg, the seed, the recipe, and the dance. When you think about your own life and your own personality, which of these maps best helps you navigate your world?